A handsome black rancher helped a millionaire farmer fix her broken tractor, and it was supposed to end right there, as a simple favor between neighbors. But it didn't. At first, she didn't trust him, thinking he was one of those men who pretended to be kind in exchange for her wealth. But that simple act became the beginning of something neither of them had expected. Neither of them was ready for how deeply it would change their lives. The sun had barely cleared the horizon when Anthony guided his dusty pickup truck down the narrow country road that separated his land from the sprawling greenfield farm. At 34, he had spent the last decade building Lone Oak Ranch from nothing, 80 acres of Georgia soil that he had turned into a respectable cattle operation through sheer determination and countless 18-hour days. The early morning air was cool, and Anthony had his window down, enjoying the brief peace before the day's work began. He had 50 head of cattle waiting to be fed, fences that needed checking, and a water pump that had been making strange noises for the past week. But as he rounded the bend where his property line met Greenfield's wheat fields, something made him slow down. A red tractor sat dead in the middle of the golden field, and beside it stood a woman. Even from a distance, Anthony could see the frustration in her posture. She was pacing back and forth, phone held high in the air, clearly searching for a signal that would not come. This far out in the country, cell service was more myth than reality. Anthony's first instinct was to keep driving. He had a full day ahead, and getting involved in someone else's problems was a luxury he could not afford. But his mama had not raised him to leave people stranded, and the land had a way of humbling everyone eventually. He pulled his truck onto the shoulder and climbed out. The woman turned as she heard his door slam. She was younger than he had expected, maybe 30, with long blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail and dirt smudges on her denim shirt. Her jeans were work-worn, not the designer kind some city folks wore when they wanted to play farmer for a day. "Need some help?" Anthony called out as he approached. She studied him for a moment, her blue eyes cautious. "I have got a tractor that decided this morning was a good time to die, and I've got 20 acres that need harvesting before the rain comes in tomorrow." Anthony nodded and walked closer, his boots crunching through the dry wheat stubble. "Mind if I take a look?" She hesitated, then stepped aside. "Be my guest, though I should warn you, I have already tried everything I know." Anthony climbed up onto the tractor and turned the key. Nothing. He popped the hood and immediately spotted the problem. "Your hydraulic line is blown," he said, pointing to the leak, "and from the sound it was making before it died, I would bet money your clutch bearing is seized up too." The woman let out a long breath. "Of course it is." She rubbed her forehead, leaving another dirt smudge. "How long to fix?" Anthony checked his watch, then looked back at his truck. "I've got some spare parts that might work. Give me an hour, maybe a little more." "Wait," she said, stepping forward. "I did not even ask. How much is this going to cost me?" "We can figure that out after," Anthony replied, already heading back to his truck for his tools. "Right now, you've got wheat that needs harvesting." For the next hour and 15 minutes, Anthony worked in comfortable silence, occasionally asking the woman to hand him a tool or hold a flashlight. She watched him work with a focus that surprised him. Most people got bored watching mechanical repairs, but she asked questions, real ones, that showed she actually wanted to understand what had gone wrong. "You know your way around machinery," she observed as he tightened the last bolt on the new hydraulic line. "Grew up fixing everything we owned," Anthony said. "When you run a ranch on a tight budget, you learn to be your own mechanic, or you go broke paying other people." "You're a rancher?" She looked toward the direction he had come from. "That's your place over there?" Anthony nodded, wiping his hands on a rag. 80 acres, just past that fence line. Lone Oak Ranch. Been building it for 10 years now." "I'm Kate," she said suddenly, extending her hand. "I own Greenfield." Anthony shook her hand, surprised by the firm grip. "Anthony, nice to meet you. I thought old man Harrison still owned this place." "He was my father," Kate said quietly. "He passed 2 years ago, left me the farm." "I'm sorry for your loss," Anthony said, and meant it. He had heard about Harrison's death through the local grapevine, but hadn't known the man had a daughter. Kate nodded her thanks, then gestured at the tractor. "Give it a try." Anthony climbed back up and turned the key. The engine roared to life, smooth and strong. He let it run for a minute, checking for leaks or unusual sounds, then shut it down and climbed off. "Should get you through harvest," he said, "but you'll want to do a full service after. That clutch is not going to last forever." Kate pulled out her phone, then remembered there was no signal. Come back to the house. I need to pay you, and I want to get your contact information in case I need repairs down the road." "No need for payment," Anthony said, packing up his tools. "We're neighbors. That's how it works out here." "At least let me get your number," Kate insisted, "for future repairs. I'll pay next time, whether you want me to or not." Anthony smiled slightly and rattled off his number while she typed it into her phone. "Fair enough." As he loaded his tools back into his truck, she could feel her watching him. When he climbed into the cab and started the engine, she was still standing there in the field, her hand raised in a small wave. He nodded back and pulled onto the road, his mind already shifting to the work waiting at his own ranch. Behind him, Kate stood alone in her wheat field, watching his truck disappear down the road. She had met plenty of people since inheriting Greenfield, consultants and contractors and business partners, but she couldn't remember the last time someone had helped her without immediately calculating what they could get in return. She looked down at her phone, at the contact information she had just saved. Something about the quiet rancher who had stopped to help a stranger stuck with her in a way she couldn't quite explain. She turned back to her waiting tractor, unable to stop the small smile that crossed her face. Kate had always prided herself on being practical. She had not built Greenfield Farm into a multi-million-dollar operation by being sentimental or impulsive. But 3 days after the tractor incident, she found herself driving past Lone Oak Ranch for the third time that week, slowing down just enough to catch a glimpse of the property. The ranch was smaller than Greenfield, but even from the road she could see the care put into it. The fences were straight and well-maintained, the pastures green, and the cattle looked healthy and content. It was the kind of operation that spoke of honest work and attention to detail. She told herself she was just being neighborly when she showed up at his gate the following Saturday with a basket of fresh vegetables from her farm. Tomatoes, cucumbers, sweet corn, the kind of produce that Greenfield had become known for in the organic market. Anthony was working on a fence post when she arrived. He looked up, surprise crossing his face as she stepped out of her truck. "Kate," he said, setting down his post-hole digger. "Everything all right with the tractor?" "Running perfectly," she replied, walking over with the basket. "I just wanted to properly thank you for the other day. Brought you some vegetables from the farm." Anthony wiped his hands on his jeans and accepted the basket. "You did not have to do this." "I know," Kate said, "but I wanted to." They stood there for a moment, an awkward silence stretching between them. Anthony glanced back at his unfinished fence, then at Kate. "You want some coffee?" he asked. "I was about to take a break anyway." "That would be nice," Kate said, perhaps too quickly. They sat on his porch, two mismatched chairs overlooking the pasture where his cattle grazed. The coffee was strong and black, served in chipped mugs that had clearly seen better days. Kate found herself relaxing in a way she rarely did anymore. "How did you end up with a ranch?" she asked. Anthony leaned back in his chair. "Saved every penny I made working construction and oil rigs," he said. "Bought this land when I was 24. It was pretty rough back then, but the price was right. Spent the last 10 years building it up, one fence post at a time." "It is a beautiful place," Kate said, and meant it. "It is home," Anthony replied, simply. "What about you? Always planned on running Greenfield?" Kate shook her head. "I was working in agricultural development, traveling all over helping farms modernize their operations. When Dad got sick, I came home to help. After he passed, I realized I couldn't let everything he built just disappear. So I stayed, expanded, turned it into something bigger." "Sounds like you're good at what you do," Anthony said. Kate smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "I'm good at building a business. The rest of it, the personal side, that's harder." Over the next month, Kate found more reasons to visit Lone Oak Ranch. She asked Anthony's advice about purchasing new equipment, even though she had consultants for that. She brought him homemade meals, claiming she had made too much and didn't want it to go to waste. She invited him to tour Greenfield's operation, showing him the greenhouses and irrigation systems she had installed. Anthony was always polite, always helpful, but Kate noticed he maintained a certain distance. He never invited himself over, never asked for anything, never pushed beyond the boundaries of neighborly friendship. It was both frustrating and refreshing. Then came the storm. It rolled in on a Tuesday afternoon, violent and unexpected. Lightning split the sky, and wind tore across both properties with unusual force. When it finally passed, Kate discovered that a large section of fence along her property line with Lone Oak had been destroyed, posts snapped and wire tangled in a mess of debris. She called Anthony, and he was there within 20 minutes. They worked side by side for hours, digging new post holes, stretching wire, their clothes soaked with rain and mud. It was hard physical work, and Kate felt her muscles burning. But there was something satisfying about it, something real that her usual work lacked. As the sun began to set, they took a break, sitting on the tailgate of Anthony's truck, sharing a thermos of water. "You didn't have to help with this," Kate said. "It's my fence." "It's our property line," Anthony replied. "Besides, good fences make good neighbors, right?" "Is that your philosophy?" Anthony was quiet for a moment. "I believe in doing right by people," he said. "My daddy taught me that. Said a man's character shows in how he treats folks when there's nothing in it for him." Kate turned to look at him. "Is that why you helped me that first day? Because it was the right thing to do?" Anthony met her eyes. "Yeah, that's why." "Not because I own Greenfield? Not because of what I could do for you?" Anthony shook his head. "I didn't even know who you were that day. Just saw someone who needed help." Something in Kate's chest loosened. She had been wealthy enough to recognize when people wanted something from her, and Anthony's complete lack of ulterior motive was almost jarring. "Can I ask you something?" Kate said. "Sure." "Why do you keep your distance? I know I've been finding excuses to come by, and you've been nothing but kind, but you never—" She paused, searching for the right words. "You never take it further." Anthony was quiet for a long moment. "Because I've heard the talk," he said finally. "People at the feed store, at the co-op, they see you stopping by my place, and they've got opinions about it." "What kind of opinions?" Kate asked, though she could guess. "That I'm trying to get close to you because of your money," Anthony said, bluntly. "That I'm looking for a handout or trying to get you to invest in my operation, or worse." Kate felt anger flash through her. "That's ridiculous." "Maybe," Anthony said, "but I've worked too hard to build what I've had to let anyone think I got it by taking advantage of someone. My pride might be all I've got sometimes, but it's mine." "What if I don't care what people think?" Kate asked. Anthony looked at her. "You should. You've got a reputation to protect, a business that depends on trust. Getting involved with someone like me, it could complicate things." "Someone like you," Kate repeated. "You mean someone who works hard, treats people with respect, and doesn't want anything from me, except maybe my company?" Anthony didn't answer. "Because that's what I see," Kate continued. "I've had consultants try to overbill me, business partners who wanted access to my contacts, even someone I was dating who was using my name to attract investors behind my back. You know what you've asked me for in the month I've known you? Nothing. Not a single thing." "Kate," Anthony started, but she cut him off. "I can't stop thinking about you," she said, the words tumbling out. "Since that first day when you fixed my tractor and wouldn't take payment, I haven't been able to get you out of my head. And I know that probably sounds crazy, but it's the truth." Anthony stared at her, something unreadable in his expression. Before he could respond, Kate's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and sighed. "It's my operations manager. I have to take this." She walked away to answer the call, leaving Anthony sitting alone on the tailgate. When she returned 10 minutes later, her expression was troubled. "Problem?" Anthony asked. "My main harvester just broke down, and the repair company I use can't get someone out here for 2 weeks. I've got crops that need to come in now, or I'm going to lose a significant portion of my yield." "What about other repair companies?" "They're all backed up this time of year. Everyone is harvesting." Anthony was quiet for a moment, then slid off the tailgate. "Come on." "Where are we going?" Kate asked. "To look at your harvester," Anthony said. "I might not run an operation as big as yours, but I know machinery." "Anthony, you don't have to," Anthony interrupted gently. "I know I don't have to, but I'm going to, anyway, because that's what neighbors do, remember?"
For 3 days straight, Anthony worked on Kate's harvester. He arrived at Greenfield before dawn and did not leave until well after dark, only taking breaks to check on his own cattle and grab quick meals. Kate worked alongside him when she could, handing him tools, holding lights, and coordinating the harvest around his repairs. On the third night, covered in grease and exhausted, they finally got the harvester running. The machine roared to life, and Kate let out a whoop of relief. Without thinking, she threw her arms around Anthony. He stiffened for just a moment, then hugged her back. "Thank you," she said into his shoulder. You saved my entire harvest." When she pulled back, they were standing closer than they ever had before. The workshop lights cast shadows across Antony's face, and Kate could see the exhaustion there, but also something else, something that made her heart beat faster. "Why did you do this?" she asked quietly. "After what you said about keeping your distance, about protecting your pride, why did you spend 3 days fixing my equipment?" Antony looked down at his grease-stained hands. "Because you were right," he said, "about what you said the other day. I have been letting fear and pride get in the way of something real." He met her eyes. "I have been alone a long time, Kate. Built my whole life around being independent, not needing anyone, proving I could make it on my own. And I did. But somewhere along the way, I forgot that being independent does not mean you have to be alone." "I am scared too," Kate admitted. "Every relationship I have had since I inherited Greenfield has been about what I could do for someone, what they could get from me. I am terrified of making that mistake again." "I cannot promise people will not talk," Antony said, "and I cannot promise this will be easy. You've got an empire, and I've got 80 acres and a dream. That's always going to be there." Kate stepped closer. "You know what I see when I look at your 80 acres? I see someone who built something real from nothing, someone who does not take shortcuts, who treats his animals with respect, who helps his neighbors without expecting anything in return. That's worth more to me than any amount of land." She reached for his hand. "I do not need someone to match my bank account, Antony. I need someone who sees me as more than just the owner of Greenfield Farm. Someone who treats me like an equal, even when our situations are not equal. That's you." "And what about your business manager, your consultants, all the people who are going to question this?" Antony asked. "Let them question," Kate said firmly. "I have spent 2 years running this farm the way everyone else thought I should, making decisions based on what looked good, what made business sense, what protected my image. And you know what? I've been miserable." She squeezed his hand. "You make me happy. You challenge me, you respect me, and you don't want anything from me except my company. That's rare, Antony. That's worth fighting for." Antony was quiet for a long moment, and Kate held her breath. Then he smiled, a real smile that transformed his whole face. "I've got conditions," he said. "If we do this, we do it right. I'm not taking money from you, I'm not asking you to invest in my ranch, and I'm not living off your success. What I've built, I built myself, and that doesn't change." "I would not want it any other way," Kate said. "And I've got a condition too. You respect that I do not need rescuing. I am perfectly capable of running my farm. We are partners, equals, or this does not work." "Deal," Antony said. "Deal," Kate echoed. He leaned down and kissed her then, gentle and careful, like she was something precious. When they pulled apart, Kate was smiling wider than she had in years. 6 months passed like water flowing downstream. Antony and Kate built something neither of them had expected, a relationship based on mutual respect and genuine affection. They faced the gossip together, the raised eyebrows at the feed store, the whispered conversations that stopped when they entered a room. Antony's ranch continued to thrive through his own hard work. He secured a loan from a bank 2 towns over, one that finally saw past his skin color to his solid business plan, and used it to expand his herd. Kate connected him with some of her organic beef buyers, not as a favor, but as a business introduction between equals. Greenfield Farm flourished as well. Kate found herself reinvigorated, making bolder decisions, trusting her instincts more. Having someone who believed in her without needing anything from her had freed something inside her. They created an informal partnership, sharing equipment when it made sense, trading knowledge about sustainable farming practices, and occasionally working each other's land during peak seasons. But they maintained their independence too, each running their own operation, each standing on their own feet. On a warm evening in late summer, they stood together in the field where they had first met, next to that same red tractor. The wheat had been harvested weeks ago, and the field lay golden and peaceful in the fading light. "You know what I realized?" Kate said, leaning against the tractor. "What's that?" Anthony asked, standing beside her. "That morning when this tractor broke down, I thought it was the worst possible timing. I was stressed, behind schedule, worried about everything that could go wrong." She turned to look at him. "Turns out, it was the best thing that could have ever happened." Anthony smiled and pulled her close. Funny how that works sometimes. They stood there as the sun set over their neighboring lands, two people who had found something rare in a world that often felt superficial and transactional. They had found genuine connection, built on respect and equality, rather than need or advantage. The land stretched out around them, unchanged and unchanging, a reminder that some things mattered more than acres or dollars. Things like integrity, partnership, and finding someone who saw you for who you truly were. In the end, that was worth more than all the farmland in Georgia. And as the last light faded and the first stars appeared, Anthony and Kate headed home together, ready to face whatever came next, side by side, as equals.